And then over here. Dude, I was sick like almost 2 months ago now, month and a half ago, and I'm
Still
still
got the cough, residual cough. Yeah, it's terrible. It's the worst thing
It's
ever.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome. Happy Tuesday. Great to see you all. Drop your recruiting questions down below. We're going to get to as many of them as we possibly can. Connor, how you feeling today?
I'm great. Happy to be back. Week hiatus, a little cold here, but all good.
Yeah, all good. Yo, good to see you. Drop your recruiting questions down below. Connor and I are going to get to as many of them as possible. Get me to a D1 college, please. We'd love to. Ask some questions. We'll get you there. Dude, yesterday, I'm not going to lie. Yesterday felt like a full week by itself.
No doubt. Mondays, insane, always. Especially, I don't know if it was a lot of people were off because of the storms and everything that was happening. But it was a lot. It was really fun. Those are the fun days, the long, grindy ones.
Yeah, it was a little grindy, but that's okay.
You and I stayed on for like we always do that.
Last night was a problem. So
Yeah.
I'll say this, and then we're gonna get to some of these questions. So we have office hours where with our clients, and we talk to them and answer any questions, walk them through the process, and we'll stay on, and then once everybody leaves, Connor and I can go home. We can get off. We never do.
Ever.
And then we end up talking for like another hour. Yeah, we should be better about that, but we won't. We won't.
It hasn't happened in years, so it probably is not trending upwards. I can tell you that for free.
Oh my gosh! All right, Connor, how many football camps should you attend?
Oh, good one. Depending on how interested the school is. Look, like especially during springtime, big exposure intake. You're not really playing unless it's spring practice or one spring game. So they are necessary, but you have to be able to gauge interest prior to that. Okay. And when I say gauge interest, how many conversations have you and the coach had? How much video has he seen of you? How many times has he thumbed up something on Twitter, right? Like these are all intakes that you kind of gauge your decision making off of as if the camp is worth it or not, right? So if you go to a 100-person camp and you're one of 100, it's very difficult to be seen unless you're 6'6", 250, you run a 4.3, right? But say you go to that same camp and you've sent them 25 pieces of evidence and they know who you are, they know you by first name basis, they've seen all of your highlights, they are much more willing to talk to you, and that's where you can make that decision and actually feel confident in going there.
Yeah. So the answer is that there's not a specific number that you should get to. It's not like, oh, you should go to 6 of them. It doesn't work like that, right? So how many football camps? It depends on what Connor is saying. The schools you're talking to, right? You can go to the ones of the schools that you're talking to, much more likely to be worth it. And then if you have the problem where you're talking to too many schools where you can't get to all of them, that's a great problem to have, right? And then you can start to weed out the ones where conversation hasn't been that strong or hasn't been that frequent. But you shouldn't be thinking, okay, I need to go to 7 camps in order to get exposure. You're probably just going to light a bunch of money on fire. Good morning, Tom. Great to see you, sir. Tom's a man. Tom's on the board.
Let's go, Tom.
Love that for Tom. Son's a freshman. What should he be doing now to get recruited for soccer? So as a freshman, we typically say that freshman year is for flexing the muscle. Okay. So freshman through senior year, these are very rough ballparks, but this is what we'd say. Freshman year is for flexing the muscle. Sophomore year is for building the foundation. Junior year is for ramping up. Senior year is for committing, something like that. Of course, you may fall into different categories along the way. As a freshman, you going and sending 150 emails tomorrow is not going to do that much for you. They're just not looking at you yet like that. So instead, what I would do as a freshman is what we call flexing the muscle. Flexing the muscle is doing some of the actions in recruiting that you're going to need to later do a lot of, but just doing a small amount of them to get your feet wet as a freshman. So for instance, when you get to junior year, you're going to want to ramp up and you're going to want to contact 100 plus schools multiple times, dozens of highlight videos, social media posts, DMs, like the whole thing, right? But it's better if as a freshman, you make a couple highlight videos. You send 10 or 20 emails. You make a couple posts on social media, not because they're going to get you a whole bunch of offers freshman year, but because then you know what that feels like. You know what it's like to go get contact info. You know roughly what it is that you've been writing, and you have kind of the app that you use to edit videos on. You have an idea of what that is. And so you've just flexed the muscle a few times. And so freshman year, I would say, is really two things. One, flexing the muscle. Do a lot of these things that we're telling sophomores and juniors and seniors to really get into. Do some of those just on a small scale. And then the second thing is physicality. Like as a freshman, bigger, faster, stronger. Technique, like skill development, is really big. There will be plenty of time for lots of marketing later on. Trust me, that's not going anywhere. And so I would say flexing the muscle and physical development. Connor, did I miss anything?
No, just the investment piece, like you said, like where to invest your time, resources. Right now, it is that development side and making sure that, yeah, if you want to go shoot some emails and see what it looks like and go to a couple camps, go to a couple showcases and like understand what those processes look like, great. But really invest your money the freshman year into development, and then sophomore year start to entertain like, okay, how do I market now my increased development and my skill sets?
Yep, for sure. How long does the whole recruiting process take? It depends on where you're at in the process, right? Like if you're a freshman and you're starting to flex the muscle, like we just mentioned, you're going to be in the recruiting process for 3 years, like maybe even 4 years, right? Like that's just a very normal thing. But if you're a senior, typically what we'd say is the later that you are in the process, the faster everything is going to happen for you. So for instance, if you are a senior right now, a 2026, and it's January 27th, and you start your recruiting process right now, there's a good chance that you're going to be committed in the next 3 to 6 months, right? Like if you actually get recruited and you do all the right things, it's going to happen within 3 to 6 months. When you first start as like a junior, lots of athletes will not commit within 3 to 6 months of starting their junior year. That process is going to take longer. Right. And so the later that you are, the more compressed that timeline is going to be. And then you might be thinking, well, then why wouldn't I just start later? Well, because a lot of those spots are going to be filled. You're not going to get the same quality of schools. You're not going to get the same amount of scholarship money, all of those types of things. Right. Connor, you have anything else to add on that?
No, pretty good on that. Like, I think that it's pretty I mean, exactly what you said about the window shrinking. So the longer that you push it, right, further out, it gets an increased chance of those spots being open, everyone being recruiting, you hitting those recruiting windows when that communication forum opens up. So like Jack and I actually had this conversation last night after office hours, but it's like, hey, when we're talking about baseball athletes in 28, like when is a really good time to get that ball rolling and what does that look like? So just making sure that we're hitting that on the head. And then as we progress through, like Jack said, if you start your senior year, second semester, you might be committed in a month, but it's going to take a lot of work. And those spots are very sparse.
Yeah. So, and again, the process will also, how long you're in the process varies based on a lot of factors: how good the kid is, the levels of schools that you're contacting, the amount of work that you're putting into the process. All of those things will affect a timeline in recruiting. But here's what I would say. I'll finish with this and then we'll go to another question. But the recruiting process is a marathon. You are running 26.2 miles. You are not sprinting a 400, right? And so you should anticipate going into this knowing that it's going to be a marathon and it's going to take you a long time. I think one thing that defeats a lot of families is they think going into the process, it's going to be easier than they thought, and it's going to take less time than they thought. And so they come in with poor expectations of what the recruiting process is really going to look like for them. So when they get into the thick of it and it takes a lot longer than they thought, and it takes a lot more work than they thought, and it's a lot harder than they thought, they're defeated and they're like, oh, this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I thought. And so what I would say is make sure that you enter the recruiting process understanding what it is that you're really embarking upon. 7% of high school athletes play college sports. 2% earn scholarships. And that data is old. That data is like 5 years old. Okay. So those numbers are actually lower now than they were before, which means you have over a 90% attrition rate of athletes who are failing. When I say failing, I just mean failing to play sports in college. So, right, if you went to, I don't want to use that example because that could be scary, but like anything where you have a 90% plus rate of failure, 90% plus of people are failing.
Yeah.
That's going to be hard. Like every time. That's going to be hard. And I think what's funny is, Connor, this is like one of my favorite quotes, which is this is what hard feels like. And I think people will go into it saying, yeah, I know it's going to be hard. I know it's going to be hard. But then when they actually get into it and they have to go make dozens of highlight videos and they have to go send hundreds of emails and they have to go make 2 posts per week on social media and they have to take, follow-ups with coaches for 6+ months. When they have to do that kind of stuff, they're like, oh, this is not what I thought. And it's like, no. This is what hard feels like. This is
exactly the process. And I think we've gotten so much better as we've progressed as well, right? Like just laying that out to families in an honest way to start the process. Look, this is what your timeline is, right? Like, especially if you're coming in as a 28 right now, it's like, hey, this is your timeline. And I'm sorry, like this is just how it works now. Whereas, look, if you're talking 10 years ago, you may have a 28 that on August 1st, right? Like they might get 17 calls and then they're committed in by August 17th, and that just isn't normal anymore. Okay, and we have to get over that stigma of like that being normal and that is the old way, and get out of this old methodology that coaches are just not in right now.
Yeah. This is what hard feels like. It's going to be difficult. If you go in with that expectation, then when it does get difficult, you're not surprised by it. You're not defeated by it. You're like, this is exactly what I thought was going to happen. I think some families get the idea that they're just going to walk in to the recruiting process and everything's just going to fall in place and it'll be fine, because my kid is really talented.
And I think the families that have a plan with that too, right? Like they have a strategic plan as to what month 1 and then month 3 and then month 6 and then month 12 looks like, are much more prepared and much more suited to take on the difficult times, right? Where, hey, a coach isn't responding for 2 weeks, where you and I, it's like, hey, normal, right? You're talking about a college coach talking to a high school athlete. This is completely normal. Whereas some people, right, like if it's a working environment and what we're used to on a day to day, if you don't respond for 2 weeks, you lose your job, right? Like, and so it's like, right. It's just very confusing. So I think that people just misunderstand of what that looks like when college coaches are communicating with high school athletes.
Yeah, and I love that, right? Which the idea is have a plan. And the reason, Connor, this is why it's so important, because when you get defeated in the process because stuff is not going your way, you're getting just stuff is hitting the fan. You're emotional in those moments. You're not like completely even keeled. You're like, this sucks. Yep. Like this is horrible. Why are we doing this again? Right? That's how you feel. That is not a good time to try to come up with a plan out of nowhere. No. Like you're not going to be able to do that. But if you come in with a plan, you're like, when stuff hits the fan, not if. When? Because it's going to happen. When stuff hits the plan, here's what we're going to do. Then when stuff actually does hit the fan, you don't have to rely on your emotions and trying to like figure out how to come up with a plan. You just follow exactly what you came up with when you were in the right mindset.
Yep.
And actually, so when we did the email workshop like a week or 2 ago, my personal favorite part of that, right? All the stuff, I think families like the scripts and they like, the subject lines and all that cool stuff. My favorite part of that is actually at the very end, I did response optimization. And I basically said, what happens if you don't get the responses you're looking for? What should you do? And there were 16 things where I was like, look at these 16 different things. And then for each one of these, here's exactly what to do for each one. But I wanted to give that, because if you don't get the responses that you're looking for, instead of just being like, oh, email doesn't work for my kid, or my kid's not good enough, or something like that, you actually have a plan to follow. And so I love what you said, because when emotions are high, the odds that you're going to come up with a great plan, just not that good.
No doubt.
Not that good. 5'9", 125, 15-year-old trying to play DB. Is it possible? I don't know. We don't make scholarship decisions. Highly recommend you contact a lot of schools, put yourself out there, get a lot of exposure, and let college coaches make that decision.
Tell you what, that Indiana DB, he was 5'8", 150 and national championship, just balling, man, balling. But super cool.
How early should you reach out to schools? We kind of addressed this, but I would say freshman year, you're really flexing the muscle there. Sophomore year, you're building the foundation. And by the end of, middle to end of sophomore year, heading into junior year, you should be ramping up fully with mega outreach. What time should you start going to recruiting camps? So I would say that is a very similar timeline to the ramp up that we're talking about, because if you've been around at all and you've heard us talk, you know that we selectively choose camps based on the schools that we're talking to. That makes it so much more worth it. And so you can't really do that if you can't get interest from schools yet, right? So you need to be of the legal recruiting date age so that you can actually hear from college coaches, and then also do enough volume where you can start to have traction with them. And then you can make decisions on camps. Remember this, there's only 3 reasons to ever attend an event. You can go for development. You think that by going to that event, you're going to become a better player. If we're being real, it's like less than 2% of events, like very few events you're going to where there's really good education and development happening, but 2%, I'll give it to them. The second thing is experience. By going to that event, your kid is getting experience so that in the future, when they have to go to an event and play well under pressure, it's not the first time they're in that environment. They've already, they get the feeling of, I show up to an event, I don't know anybody. I'm kind of awkward there in the corner. I haven't met. Okay, everybody's going to come over. They're going to tell us the camp stuff, right? Like just getting a feel for that. So when they have to perform really well in front of their favorite school later on, they're able to perform their best and it's their best day, right? So that's the second reason, experience. And then the third would be exposure or evaluation, getting in front of college coaches for recruiting purposes. When you are like a younger athlete, so freshman, even sophomore year, majority of your camp should be development and experience, not exposure. When you get to be a junior and a senior, the majority of your camps will shift over to exposure evaluation. Okay. As a parent, Connor, what do you tell a kid who is not so open to leaving their area for fear of the unknown? Huge topic, not many people talk about.
Ooh, good one. That's actually a really good question. So, fear unto the unknown, right? Look, we go much more off of like opportunity and leveraging opportunity and what that looks like. So, if he doesn't want to go out of that circumference of whatever it is, right? Say it's 100 miles, or within driving distance, let's say, right? The easiest way to kind of tackle him in the way that he's thinking about this is like, look, it doesn't mean that you can't contact other schools. And what tends to happen, right, is like when you contact other schools that are outside of that circumference, the schools inside of that circumference, because they don't want you to leave, tend to become much more appealing and like, hey, like, we don't want you to go outside of state borders or outside of that area because this is our recruiting window. And they're very territorial about that. Okay. So that's one reason. Second reason is when you actually talk to these coaches, then you get a much better feel as to, okay, this is a really good fit, or I like that coach a lot more than I thought I would like the coach that's 10 minutes away from me. So if we don't go into the unknown, right, it's just like dipping your toe into water and starting the conversation, starting the outreach process. And one of two things will happen. One, you're going to fall in love with something that's further away, or two, you're going to actually build more leverage for yourself inside of that window.
So I'm going to add, so what you said is dead on. I'm going to add, because the question is, what do you tell a kid?
Ooh.
Right. And so it's not even necessarily what are the reasons for this, right? But as anybody here who has kids know, like you can try telling them whatever you want and it could be perfectly reasonable, but they won't listen, right? So let me tell you what the conversations that I've had with kids that have worked really well. Here's what I would say to a kid who's like, hey, I'm only interested in these 10 schools, or I don't really want to go away from home, something like that. Between you and me, we're going to call this Trojan horsing. Okay. So, it's Trojan horsing, and you go to the kid and you say, listen, totally fine. Yeah, I'm on board with that. Don't come out and disagree with them right away, because they will not listen to a single thing that you will say. They won't listen. Okay. So you come in and you agree with them. You say, totally, 100%. We're just going to stay focused on these 10 schools. But here's the thing. Those 10 schools, if you have a lot of other schools interested in you, those 10 will want you more. Like imagine one of those top 10 schools, your favorite school, they ask you, hey, who else are you talking to? And we have to say, well, nobody, because we only contacted the 10 schools. They're then going to go, well, why not? If you were a good player, wouldn't you be getting recruited by a lot of schools? And so like, listen, we're not going to go to schools outside of these 10, but we're going to use the schools outside of those 10 to get your favorite ones interested. How's that sound? And kids are much more receptive to that in my experience. But then you and I, Connor, you and I, or like parent, you and I secretly know that like there are probably other schools outside of those that would be a really good fit for them. And a lot of times the trigger to that happening is a school expressing interest in your kid.
Yeah,
that's the catalyst for all of that changing. So let me show you how this will typically go, right? A school expresses interest in the kid, and the kid is like, ugh, I don't want to go there. That's too far from home. I'm not interested in that division, whatever it is. But maybe your kid's not getting interest from any other schools. So they're like, all right, fine. I'll like entertain them just because I don't have anything else. But then over the next couple of months, they start to build a relationship with the coach there, right? And they're like, wow, I really like the coach. I don't like the school. I wish that coach was at a different school, but I really like the coach. So they build that relationship for a while. Then the coach says, hey, listen, why don't you come out for a visit? I know you're not sold yet. Come out for a visit, see what it's like. And the kid is like, well, because I like the coach, I'll go. Because I like the coach. That's it. And then the kid goes on campus and looks around and goes, this is not what I expected. Actually, this is pretty cool. I could totally see myself here. And all of a sudden, the ugly duckling becomes the swan. And the catalyst for all of that happening was the coach showing interest in your kid. And so you don't have to get your kid on board with all of these schools right from the bat. You don't. Tell them that you're using all these other schools to get the 10 interested. And then when these other schools start expressing interest in your kid, that's the catalyst that'll start to lead to more interest where your kid starts to participate. Connor, how many times have we seen this?
Brooke. Like, I think of Brooke all the time when it comes to this. And there's like a one in just for context, guys, like there's one individual family that was this story made over. It was like, I want to go to the 5 schools that are within an hour from me. And it's like, great, like, awesome. I understand. And so we even phrased that to them when we were first starting out. And lo and behold, there's 25 other schools that are outside that window that she got interested from, and they were much better fits. So it happens every week on the week where something is not what it seems. And whether it be the school that they're inside of that window, they don't feel like the coach is really receptive. They feel like they can do whatever because he's 10 minutes away from home. So it's like the hometown discount, right? So like you deal with all of these different factors. And then the coach that's outside of that window that just loves your kid. And they're like, hey, I want to, and you just feel much better and at ease as a parent, but also the kid loves it as well. It happens every week.
Yeah. It happens all the time. And so try the Trojan horse method. Had really good success with that, with kids. When emailing college coaches and assistant coaches, should you send the exact same email or change it up? You could send the exact same email. And I'll say something that a lot of people are going to really hate and disagree with. I don't care. I'm going based on data, which is that personalization in your emails doesn't matter. Now, let me clarify personalization. Personalizing to the coach's last name matters. Really important. Personalizing the email, I would call it hyper personalization, where you write like a first line dedicated to the coach, like, hey, Coach Justice, saw you were a stud at Georgia Tech, right? Like, just boosting your ego right now.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
But like writing a line like that, you don't need to do something like that. You don't. And you'll get a ton of people in recruiting. Okay. A lot of people will say, you need to personalize those messages. How else are you going to stand out in the inbox? Listen, I don't know. I'm going to try to say this as nicely as I can. I have yet to see anybody produce any evidence that proves that personalization gets better results. I've yet to see anybody do that. They tell me that it does, but they haven't produced any like evidence that makes me go, maybe we need to do that, right? And we've also done this. We tried this 2 years ago. We thought that personalization was like such a big deal. And so we would do, if you've ever heard of stock, we get 100 schools on a list and we get 3 coaches per school, typically 300 college coaches. We went through 2 years ago and wrote a personalized line for literally every single one of them. I mean, it was hardcore. It was hardcore. And we were getting great results. And I was like, it must be because of the personalization. But what ended up happening is we had this family who came in super late. And we didn't have time to personalize it. We just had to get a campaign out. And so I said, listen, guys, we're not going to be able to personalize this. We're just going to have to roll with it. You're probably not going to get the same number of responses, but hopefully we'll get some. We just got to get it out. And the family said, totally understand. Let's just get it out. So we got it out. Short version, campaign crushed. Got a ton of interest from college coaches, a ton of responses. And I was like, that was kind of interesting, but maybe it was just a one-off, So then we had another family come in and I said, hey guys, here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to test this without personalization. Let's see what happens. And then if it doesn't perform well, I will personally go through and personalize every single one of them for you. Family was like, we trust you. Let's rock and roll with it. Campaign crushed. Fast forward I actually tested this. We actually tested this over and over again. And there was no difference in results between personalized messages, hyper personalized messages, I'll say, and like normal personalized messages with just the coach's last name. And so if you are hyper personalizing these messages, you are spending a lot of time and effort on something that is not going to get you dramatically better results. There are other factors that are much more important when it comes to getting responses from college coaches. And so that's my like little spiel on personalization. You got to be careful because in recruiting, there are a lot of things that people will regurgitate simply because they sound right or because everybody else is saying them. And so one person who doesn't know much about recruiting will hear somebody else say that personalization is really important. And then that person will go make a video and they'll be like, personalization is really important, but that person never actually tested it. That person doesn't actually know. And this happens over and over and over and over again in recruiting related to make sure you send video, make sure you make a 3-minute highlight video, make sure you include your stats in your emails, make sure you have a recruiting profile. Like these are all just regurgitated things in recruiting that don't actually make a difference.
Yep.
Sorry, that's my rant for the day.
No, so true though, because look, even when we're talking about stats or intangibles or different things that like are going to produce more opens that we know, right? Like there's little ways to increase opens and increase clicks and different things, but it's timing, right? And it's strategy behind when you do it and when you don't. Like if it's the first time you're contacting someone and you give them a book, they're not going to read it. Like they look at, okay, what is your grade class? Okay, that doesn't fit. We're not looking for that. Skim over, right? Like there's no one of, and so you just wasted 30 minutes trying to come up with this perfectly crafted email that look, they care about 2 things in the whole body of the text.
Yeah, and that's the thing though, Connor. Like in B2B, right? If you work in the corporate world or anything like that, you can't send any type of outreach without personalization. It literally won't work. And so
Correct.
the people who have the hardest time listening to this or believing this are the people who come from that world who know in the business world, you can't ever send a message without it being personalized. It won't work. And they
Right.
assume that applies to recruiting as well. I get it. That's why we personalize stuff early on, because that's what I thought too. Recruiting is a different world. It's a different beast. And I don't know why. I can speculate on why it's different, but recruiting is different. And that personalization, the other thing I'll say is like, it matters a lot later down the road. Like when you start communicating with a college coach consistently, then personalization is really important. In intro messages, it's not as important. And again, we can speculate as to like why, but
I'll say the only caveat to this is if you have a direct connection to that coach. Okay. Like my high school coach was roommates with this coach when they played summer ball in 2016. Like, okay, great. Like plug that in because now it's like, oh yeah, awesome. I haven't talked to that guy in forever. I need to connect with him. Oh, what's this kid doing? Like now they're much more engaged with you and they're going to give you a better chance because of that reason. But other than that, guys, like
that's a good exception. Yeah, that's for sure a good exception. Liam says 2028 goalkeeper. Hi, both. Thanks for your advice. Very helpful. Awesome. Glad you're here, Liam. Thanks for coming. By the way, if you want to download the recruiting roadmap, we have a 100K scholarship roadmap. You can figure out which of the 5 phases of college recruiting you're in, and then we'll send you a free guide specifically for your phase. So if that sounds awesome to you and you'd like to know exactly what you need to do right now to get to the next level in recruiting, d1scholarship.com/roadmap. Go take the quick 2-minute quiz. It's free. You'll get a free guide, and it's awesome. Go dive into that. Rob, good to see you, sir. I believe you have come to a number of these lives. Great to see you. Thanks for coming. What should I read into when a college that I previously exchanged emails with said they were interested in me, now has ghosted my last 2 emails where I was letting them know where I played? I would not read anything into that for a number of reasons. The first reason is I don't really care how many times a college coach ghosts you, as long as you're doing the right things while they're ghosting you. There's still a good chance that they'll come back. We've had players get ghosted for 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, even 9 months. And then the coach comes back and pops up out of nowhere. Right. But that stuff doesn't happen. They're not coming back 3 to 9 months later if you're just sitting around and, hoping that they come back. No, you got to be actively doing stuff for them to come back. But I'm not too worried about the ghosting piece. The other thing is that It sounds like the last couple messages you sent to them were letting them know where you played, right? Think about the message that you're sending them. Why do they need to respond to that? What are they going to say? See you there? I mean, maybe, but like they don't really need to do that. My point is that the messages that they're ghosting right now, you didn't really give them a reason to respond. It's not, which is okay. You don't necessarily need a reason to respond in every single follow-up. But my point is like, it's not surprising. Those messages were, they didn't really have a reason. They're like, this is what happened. I bet you. If they're legitimately interested, they saw where you were playing and they're like, awesome. Write that name down. Beautiful. We'll check him out. That's literally what happened, probably, right? Connor, anything else on that?
No, it's just a call to action, right? Like, and there's only so many ways that you can do this, right? But there's questions that need to be asked about, like, hey, what does this look like? What does this look like? Where are you at in your recruiting process? I mean, there's so many different ways to do it, but I think that's spot on, right? Like, if you don't give them a reason, whether it be because of what you sent them, the context or the video or whatever it is, like we always try to add value every time we send an email. Okay, like add value or add a conversation piece. So scheduling a meeting from a meeting, talking about next steps, different things like that, so that you're always in communication. And if they ghost you, then okay, then we can always revert back to something else that we know that works based on data.
Yep, 100%. 5'11", 160, playing on my high school's elite team as a freshman. Could I make it to the next level? I don't know. I'm not the one who makes those decisions. Guys, any athlete, here's what I will say to you. If you're an athlete in here and you're wondering like, can I make it to the next level? Stop asking that question. Stop asking. You're looking for validation from external sources. You're looking at your friends trying to get validation, your parents, from me and Connor, from your high school coach or your club coach or your travel coach or your trainer or whoever it is. You need to know internally that you can do it and believe that you can do it and then put in the work to make that happen. Us saying, like, if I tell you, does it really change anything if I'm like, no, you can't make it to the next level? Like, no, right? Or even if I say, yeah, you can make it to the next level, that should not impact you in any way, shape, or form. You should say, if I say, no, you can't make it to the next level, your thought should be, I'll prove you wrong. And if I say, yeah, you can make it to the next level, you should be thinking, yeah, I'll prove you right. Right. And so any questions like that, I just want to address that because there have been a few of those in the chat, even like in other lives too. We're like, well, this is how big I am. Can I make it? And it's like, I don't know, man. You're a freshman. Put in the work. See, don't rely on somebody else's validation. Doesn't matter. Go prove to the world what you're capable of. All right, Connor, what's the fastest way to get a D1 offer? How do I get a lot of attention from coaches?
Ooh, a lot of attention cross stream platforms. Okay, so like build video, build evidence, and then tell everyone about it. I mean, simple terms, right? Like, and that's as simple as you can make it. It's like a cross stream. So you're thinking of Instagram, Twitter, right, as one stream, and then a video platform as another. And then from there, being able to take that and use it towards communicating with coaches and outreaching towards coaches. And that drives the ship as to where conversations derive from, how they get noticed, how you would then take that initial conversation, turn it into interest and opportunity, and then taking the opportunity and turn it into dollar signs, which is what you're after. Okay. So like there's a step-by-step process in order to take that, but essentially collect all the evidence, send it to as many coaches as possible. Across the entire nation, and then from there see what happens, and then from those conversations drive the ship.
All right, I'm going to tell you the fastest way to get a D1 offer.
Yeah,
I'm going to tell you what it is.
Let's hear it.
You're all like, also people are going to think I'm insane right now, which is fine. They didn't ask for the easiest way. They didn't ask for a reasonable way. They asked for the fastest way. So I'm not saying you guys all have to do this, but I'm going to answer the question. This is how you can get a D1 offer as fast as possible. Ready? First thing that you're going to do is you're going to go get every single Division I school in the country. And you're going to get every single coach at every single Division I school in the country. Okay? You're going to go get the contact info for literally every single one of them. It's going to be over 1,000 college coaches, but you asked for the fastest way, not the easiest or most reasonable way. It's going to be over 1,000. You're going to go put all of that into a document and you're going to get that. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to go get all of the video that you have from the last year and you're going to cut up all of it and put it onto a YouTube channel. You're probably going to have over 100 videos and maybe more than that. Might be over 200. but you want the fastest way. You want the fastest way? You need as much evidence as you can possibly get. So you're going to go put all of that evidence on a YouTube channel. And then what you're going to do is you're going to send that evidence to over 1,000 college coaches, and you're going to contact them until you get a response. Meaning if a coach doesn't respond to you after 4 times, you're sending a 5th, you're sending a 6th, you're sending a 7th. Are you going to annoy people? Yup. Are you going to have a better chance of getting a D1 offer fast? Yup, you are. Is that reasonable? No, but you asked for the fastest way to do it, and that's the fastest way to do it. You're also posting on social media at least 3 times a week, maybe even more than that. If you have daily content's even better, but at least 3 times a week. Also, those over 1,000 coaches, you're also DMing them on social media, and you're doing it on multiple platforms, on Twitter and Instagram. Guys, I know this is ridiculous and you're not going to go do this. I totally understand, but hopefully you get what I'm saying, which is like, that is the fastest way to get a D1 offer. Like that's the fastest way to get a D1 offer. And so I understand many of you are not going to do that. You don't even need to do that. Okay. But can you do like a small portion of that? Can you do like a fraction of all of that? And that will still get you the results that you're looking for. But if you want like the fastest way, it's unreasonable and it's hard and it's going to require a lot of time and effort, but that's what it is.
I love that. It just puts in perspective, like how much this actually takes, right? And I think that if you're looking at strictly D1s, this is what a lot of families run into. And then you can shrink the pool a little bit, right? But like you're spot on. I mean, it is that times 2. And everything that we try to preach is like, look, it's about volume. How much are you doing compared to everybody else? And this goes for work, or it goes for outreach, or it goes for exposure, it goes for anything, right? It's like, correct. It doesn't matter. What are you doing compared to the person that's trying to take your job?
Yep. And that's it. And guys, I haven't had this rant in a while. I guess I'm just in a ranting mood. Hopefully
You are. I love it though.
But like I'm kinda on
Tuesday.
with it. But like, no, but you said it's doing more than everybody else, right? That wants the same spots. College recruiting is a competition. It's a competition. And the winners get massive scholarship offers worth 100 grand, 150 grand, 200 grand, etc. Okay. There are a limited number of spots. It's not like everybody can go get one of these things. They can't. There's a limited number of spots. That means it is a competition. It is the Hunger Games. That's what it is. So your teammates are competing against you. You're competing against your friends. You're competing against the other people that are on this live right now. Like you're competing against all of those people. Also, not to be hardcore, but like you're competing against us. Like if we have someone in D1 scholarship that is your position and your grad class, right? Then like low key, you're competing directly against us. We're going to be contacting the same coaches. We're going to be trying to get the same opportunities. And so it's you guys versus us. That's a competition, right? That's literally what it is. And so it sounds so hardcore. And I totally get that. If you're a parent, you might be watching this going, bro, I just want my kid to continue their career. I totally understand that. But the recruiting world doesn't really care. And the recruiting world doesn't stop for anybody, right? They're not trying it's not supposed to be fair, right? I get that one, Connor. People will be like, well, do you think it's fair that people can pay a bunch of money and then get like, and I'm like,
doesn't matter.
Listen, it doesn't matter. That's how the world works, right?
Yep.
You think it's fair that somebody in your town can go buy a $10 million home? Like, no, but the world, it's not about being fair. Right. Yeah. It's the cream rises. It's cream of the crop. Yep. Right. And so anyway, okay. I got the posting short videos on YouTube regularly, YouTube shorts, Instagram content, posting after each game, a 40-second summary. Sometimes content is not great. Better to post a monthly one.
Ooh, good one. Value. Okay. Especially if you're sending it to coaches, value. If you're building a body of work, fine. Okay. Meaning if you're building your YouTube channel or if you're building your Twitter content, if you're posting daily stuff or however much you just said, then building the body of work is fine. If you're sending it directly to coaches and you want that to drive the traction necessary to produce a response or a conversation, then provide value and stack that together and listen to what they're saying, because coaches will give you hints. And I think that's also a huge misconception. It's like, hey, we're looking for a top of the lineup hitter, or we're looking for a striker that can score at any moment. Then you better be sending them scoring videos. Okay. Like if you sending them passing a midfield through ball, like you're not doing what they just asked. Okay. So listen to what they're saying and provide the value necessary for them to be like, oh, great. Now I want to see more of that, instead of just saying, hey, this is what I did this week. And I hit a ground ball to shortstop, or I had an everyday touch in soccer, or I did this in tennis, whatever it is. Right.
Yeah. If the content is not great, don't post it.
Correct. Take the week off.
Take a
We
week.
all have that.
Like,
We have those weeks.
yeah, everybody has those weeks where you don't play well. That's okay. Just don't force that. Now, not every play needs to be the best play of your life, right? But I'd say, like, if I had to put a letter grade on it, I'd say you should share everything that's like B plus and above,
Yep.
right? Anything that's B or under, I would not share, right? Take the week, wait until you get a better one, that kind of thing. But you remember, every time that you're posting on social media or you're sending a follow up, you're giving coaches a reason to either recruit you or not recruit you. And so every single touch point that you have should be moving coaches closer to a scholarship offer. If you don't feel like you have content that does that and it sends you in the wrong direction, just shut it off. Don't go send that. Thanks for answering my question. Yeah, you got it. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you. Connor, how do I get on unofficial or official visits?
Same thing. Produce relationships with coaches. There's a big thing, guys. Like if you don't have a relationship with coaches, you're not going to be invited to the visit, right? And a visit is a big deal. And I actually was having a conversation with one of our clients 2 or 3 days ago, and they were like, "Hey, we got invited to a visit. Is it good, or what do we need to do next?" I was like, this is what you've been after this entire time. People don't invite you to visits if they're not super interested. So what do you do to get the visit? Is you have to provide enough evidence that you're the type of player that they want. And if you don't do that, then they're not going to ask you to come on the visit. Okay. Whether that be through a camp, a showcase, an event, massive amount of video that you're sending them, or daily touch points where you've been talking to the coach. It usually starts out like, hey, liked your video, what are your transcripts? Or hey, what is this? Or when are you playing? Send me your schedule, right? And so it leads into the next piece. So stack the first piece, focus on the initial foundation, which is build the relationship with the coach, and then that typically turns into, after a matter of time, the unofficial or official visit. Official visits are interesting in itself. Like some
Yeah.
coaches love them, some coaches hate them, but I kind of group them both together because they're both super valuable in a longer part of the recruiting process.
Yeah, for sure. I don't have anything to add. My son is a rising ninth grader and runs cross country and track, has very competitive times. What should he be doing now? Is it different than for other sports? We've heard track is different. The first thing I'll tell you is that I've yet to have a sport where a parent doesn't say that their sport is different. I'm not saying that it's not. Each sport has their own unique things about them, for sure. We've had 14 different sports at D1 scholarship at this point, including track. And so, like, it's true. They all have their own little nuances and idiosyncrasies and those types of things. And I'm not saying that you're saying this, but careful thinking that your sport is a special snowflake, that your situation is that way. That can lead you to some pretty bad habits that could not lead in the direction you're hoping for. So in terms of track being different, track tends to recruit later than other sports, right? Is typically how that goes. Not always. It depends on the athlete. It depends on the school and the level and those types of things. But track most of the time recruits later than other sports, especially, for instance, like against a lacrosse or against a volleyball, which recruit aggressively early. So in that case, track would be a little bit different. But the only other thing that I would say might be different about that is that you're in a time-based sport, right? Track, swimming, video is not going to be as important for you. So in that way, it might be a little bit different too. If we're talking about skill-based sports, baseball, basketball, football, soccer, lacrosse, volleyball, softball, skill-based sports, video is going to reign supreme. for you in track and any other swimmers that would be in here too, times are going to be the most important. 80% of your evidence is going to be times. You want to send multiple times so that you show consistency, that you didn't just run that time one time and eat your Wheaties that morning, but every single time that you run, you're producing similar or awesome times, right? Otherwise, the process is relatively going to be the same for you. You still need evidence. You still need talent, evidence, and exposure. As a ninth grader, you also said, what should he be doing right now? I'm not sure if you were on in the beginning, but we talked about flexing the muscles, like doing some of the things that you're going to need to do later on, but just getting your feet wet, sending some emails, grabbing some times, even grabbing a little bit of video, posting a couple times on social media, like sending some email. Those types of things are good to like dip your toe into freshman year, and then you can build up and ramp up later on.
Isn't it so interesting that just say like cross country, track, swimming, recruit later because they have to. Think about like when you're looking at an athlete in football, you can see the upside, right? Like it's like, oh, I think that he can turn into this. Whereas like with time-based sports, it's like, no, you need to be this when you get here, right? Like,
Yeah.
which is so different and just a counter. So it is different in that way. I agree with what you said there.
Yeah. It is interesting. It's very interesting. Liam says, thanks for your answer. I'll delete some content posted. Looking forward to the next workshop. Liam, were you in the one a week or two ago? Awesome if you were. Great to have you. Junior in high school, skill level is up to others. I'm about 5'11", 160, little underdeveloped in size. I'm still growing, and I'm trying to go college for baseball. And feel like it's hard to get colleges to look at me because of my size. Okay, Matt. Well, it's Matthew. I don't know if your friends call you Matt. Here's what I would say. Okay. I actually made a video about this today that's going to get posted. And the video is titled, Being a Late Bloomer is an Advantage. That's the title. And a lot of people are going to say that's not true. That's okay. They're welcome to hate on me. But I was a late bloomer. And I know a lot of other athletes who were too. Here's why being a late bloomer is actually an advantage for you. You can go watch the video when I post it later today, or you can just listen right now. Either one. Here's why. Right now, you're playing against other kids who are significantly bigger, right? And by the way, you're 5'11", 160. You're not like crazy undersized, right? We're not talking like you're 5'5". But you're playing against kids who might be bigger, faster, and stronger, okay? Those kids who develop physically really early don't have to rely on their skill to beat people because they're just so big. So they can just beat people because of their physical maturity, okay? You, as an undersized athlete, which I don't even know that you're super undersized, but let's say you're undersized, right? You can't win on physicality. So how do you win when you're undersized? You have to be more talented, right? Like you have to have better skills, better technique, those types of things. So you're building your skills. They're beating you because they're bigger. What happens when you grow, though? And at some point, these guys are going to stop growing. You know what I'm saying? And so what happens when you go? Well, now you're similar sizes, but you have dramatically better skills because you couldn't rely on your size and they did, right? And now you actually have the massive advantage. And so, yeah, listen, Matthew, it could be that you have a harder time getting recruited right now. Totally. And that might mean that you have to go to a junior college, or it might mean that you have to go to a lower level school, right? But it also might mean that when you get there and then you get under a college strength coach and you put on the freshman 15 and you get after it and your skill set is really good because you couldn't rely on your size, then you're primed to be able to then go to an even better school than you might have been getting recruited out of in high school if you were a bigger kid. And so you just have to play the longer game. This also only applies if you're actively developing a better skill set when you're undersized. If you don't take advantage of that opportunity, notice how I'm reframing a negative attribute as an opportunity. If you reframe that as an opportunity and you take advantage of it, I actually think that it could be a really good thing for you. There's one kid that I'm thinking of in particular. It was actually a teammate of mine. Okay, Connor, when I was like 12, I went to Cooperstown.
Oh yeah,
Cooperstown
was awesome. Yeah.
Okay, I went to Cooperstown, which is like a really big baseball tournament when you're 12. Okay, and I went with this like really talented team. We went all the way to the finals. You know that thing. I played very little on that team because I was not a big kid. And so I played very little, but we had this pitcher on our team. I swear to you, he was 12. He looked like he was 25. Like he was
Full beard.
already made full beard,
Yeah.
like yoked, like just, and he was throwing pumping gas. You know what I mean? And that kid and all the hype around, even around the country, which around 12-year-olds, we can talk about whether that's good or not, but
Right.
he was like known around the country for being this stud. I remember I showed up to junior college and I knew nothing about the junior college that I was going to. It was kind of a last minute decision. I commit there, show up to the junior college, and I shake this guy's hand and, I'm meeting the teammates, whatever. And the guy goes, Jack. I was like, what's up, man? I had to do that awkward, like, I don't really know who you are
It's
thing,
like,
but,
hey, how you doing? It's been a while.
Yeah, like that whole thing. And he introduces himself. Same guy, same height, same weight, like very similar weight. Like
Yep.
he literally looked the exact same. He was not throwing that much harder. He was not like he really hadn't developed that much since he was 12.
We all have a
Like,
story like that, like that where
everybody
no kidding. And I just think that like that for both of us, this is true. I mean, we were both on super talented teams when we were growing up, and neither one of us were like the best player on that team by any stretch of the imagination. And some of those guys went on to be really great. And then some of them, uh, when by the time they were 16, 17, it's like, whatever happened to that kid, right? Like, where did he go? Or where's he going now? And you just like Google and you get into a rabbit hole and it's like, wait, what? Oh, okay, I see. Right.
Yeah, this happened. I mean, honestly, it happened for me. Even when I was at Oregon, I love this. This was so sweet. When I was at Oregon, I played the first 25 games. I started as a freshman. I don't even know if you know this, Connor. And,
I do.
Okay, so I started, won the starting spot, played horribly, and got benched about halfway through the season. And didn't play the rest of that season, transferred to a junior college, and then went on to Mississippi State. When I was at Mississippi State, for whatever reason, we played Oregon that year. And so I got to play against a lot of my former teammates, right? And when they showed up, and I had gone to Mississippi, right? I started eating with some Southern boys. We had a legit strength coach. The strength and conditioning at Oregon was really speed based, right? It's a track school. The track program is insane, right? And so that same track strength coach was our baseball strength coach. By the way, he's a legend. I got nothing against that guy, but we didn't do a lot of like super heavy lifting stuff. We were fast, we were really fast. When I got to Mississippi, it was like, no, why are you not putting more 45s on that bar? Like, what are we doing? And then when we would go eat, it wasn't like, do you want fries with that? It was like, I want 3 meals for 1 meal. And I learned how to actually eat. And that combination of that, I put on a ton of good weight, and I got a lot bigger and all those types of things. And I developed a lot since I was at Oregon. So when Oregon came into town, it was like the 4th week into season. I was hitting 4th in the lineup. I looked like I looked like I was on roids, and like it was a completely different experience. And all those guys were like, dude, what? Like,
what happened?
And that's just a good example of like, hey, actually, me being a late bloomer worked out as an advantage for me in that case. And so I know we've gotten on this for a while, so we'll hop to another question. But I really don't think that being a late bloomer should hinder you. I think if you play it right, you can be just fine, and you can still get recruited even if you're not a big kid. Simon says he listened to the workshop offline as he's in Barcelona. That's some dedication, sir.
Cool.
I'm glad.
That's awesome.
I'm glad. Let's see. Thanks for answering the question. Yeah, you got it. Can you give us a sample of what to say to secure camp invitations in follow-up communications after face-to-face conversations with football coaches who have expressed interest?
I would assume these are like they come to your school face-to-face. That typically is like when this happens.
I assume because he's asking for camp invitations after face-to-face. So the face-to-face can't be happening so it has to be them coming to the school.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Look, like anytime that you get to sit down with a college coach, we actually just had this with a football player, and there was 3 or 4 coaches. He's a really good player, so they all wanted to have one-on-ones with him, which is great. And one of the big strategic points is you have to ask what next steps are. Have to. Like, it has to be said. "Hey, coach, just so I'm clear, like, what are next steps in your process?" And then honestly, for high school athletes, be quiet for 2 seconds. Let them speak, okay? Because, like, you can run yourself right into an opportunity, right out of an opportunity if you just keep rambling on. So just let them speak. "Hey, what are next steps?" And they will give you more insight because we do this as humans as naturally as it comes. It's like either you don't have an answer, so you just start spitballing all of this stuff, and then you can follow up on that with an email or a text or however you guys left that communication, but you're gonna have a much more clear path as to what they need from you. So that's an easy way to clear those, like, next step slash communication slash what do I need to do? Do I need to come to this camp or not? Another thing is just asking them, right? Like, "Hey, coach, I'd love to be at this camp. I just wanted to know what the day looks like," and just see like what they say. And if it's not a great opportunity, then we just had this happen probably 45 minutes ago, right before we got on this call. It's like, I did not like that response. They're super lazy with it. We need some more discovery as to actually if they're interested or if they're not. And if you don't have that, then don't go. I mean, honestly, guys, like
No, no.
we laugh, but it is 100% true. If you do not have verification that they like you enough for you to come and to talk to you, or that you have a better chance to go to this camp and be recruited from this camp, then do not go. Hot take of the day, but
Yeah, it is for sure. And we talk about that's something we talk about a lot. Um, Beth, my son's a QB and junior in high school, got injured second game, so lacking film. Is that something he should be talking about when he sends emails or DMs? I would. And Beth, if you're the Beth that I'm thinking of, are you
I,
in Telegram? We gotta get you in Telegram.
Beth and
Um,
I, yeah,
yeah,
maybe because this is
yeah,
like if it's not Beth, like I
yeah.
we just talked
Hey,
like a week and a half ago.
Beth, if you're the Beth that I'm thinking of, make sure that you're in Telegram or shoot us a message. We'll make sure that you get taken care of. Okay. But the answer to this is I would include that he got injured because you don't have a lot of film from the year. So they need to know why that happened. Right. So I would mention that that happened, but then also depending on when he's going to be healthy again or what that looks like, if we can go get training or 7-on-7 film in the next couple months or something like that, that would be great too. But again, it depends on when he comes back. But if you're the Beth that
He's
I'm thinking of,
if it's the bet that you're thinking
please.
of, he's back throwing now, which is
Okay.
great.
Okay. Awesome.
So
Then we need to leverage. So we should tell them that he's hurt because they need to know why he doesn't have a lot of game film. It's not because he was sitting the bench, it's because he was hurt. And then including 7-on-7 film, which is okay, actually. That's not the worst thing in the world. If you can show that you can throw on 7-on-7, you'll still be okay. But Beth, if you need something, please reach out to us. We'll help you.
if it's not that same Beth, that is super weird.
That would be. I think it is. I think it's
Yeah,
Beth.
sure. Yeah.
But yeah. When should I make an account for NCAA eligibility and start adding colleges and all? You're gonna have to do the NCAA eligibility stuff at some point. So like the earlier that you do it, the better. And sometimes I guess like Connor, we've had a couple families who say like it takes a couple months,
Yeah.
just depending on it. So the earlier that you can do it, the better. You're gonna have to do it at some point. Um,
Cade just hit me. He said if that's Beth, then she's in Telegram.
okay, awesome.
Yeah. So, Cade's awesome. Oh, Cade, what's up, man?
Good to see you, Cade. Where is he? He's in here somewhere. I don't see him.
Larkin.
He's lurking. He's like a coach in the shadows, man. He's just lurking. Does 7v7 help you get more offers? Yeah, kind of just what we mentioned. It should definitely be used. If you're playing 7-on-7, you should use that film. That can definitely help you. So yeah, 100% I would use that. I wouldn't say it's like as good as fall season. Like they're going to care more about what happens in the fall, but you should absolutely use 7-on-7 film. How many schools should you reach out to? We typically recommend at least 100. We typically recommend at least 100. A lot of families will end up doing 150, 200. Some families who are super gung-ho will do like all of them in a specific division or something like that, which is totally fine. But, at least 100 is what we say. And if you're like 100, let me say a couple things. One is if you do the traditional advice of like 20 to 30, you're going to have a hard time. The second thing is if you're like, how do I get to 100? Really easy way to do it. get 20 schools from each division. So D1, D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO, get 20 schools. And then in your state and in bordering states, if you're on the coast or something, then you can also do like your region, and you will get to 100 very, very quickly. And then whoever expresses interest, then you can start to research those schools. And now the research actually makes sense because they're already interested. So you're saving yourself a lot of time. So little order of operations for you. Order of operations might be my phrase for 2026.
But it's so important.
Dude, it comes up so often.
It's everything that we do, right? Like, I mean, you think about even it's, hey, how do I build a YouTube channel? It's like, well, first you have to get the video. Second, you have to figure out how to label the video. And third, you have to go off of like, okay, you've got the video. Now, where do you put it, right? Also, for all the Huddle users out there, great platform to host. Terrible platform to share and to cross communicate with coaches. Terrible. Like
Yeah.
the amount of ads that go into that where you have to sit there for a minute and a half. Just remember, guys, I remember Jack and I had this on like the first live, but stoplight, like remember the stoplight where it's like if you give a coach a Huddle link and it takes a minute and a half for them to open that Huddle link, that light has turned green and they've moved on. Okay. So like just remember that whenever you guys are sharing video.
Yep. Totally. Deanna, good to see you. What's the smartest way to handle a coaching change during recruiting? Example, new head coach was announced at Michigan, came from Iowa. Both programs are on the list. Two things. One is the school that is, so the coach that's leaving to go to another program, after, give it a little bit of time because they got to get settled in there. But after a few weeks or a month or something like that, reach out to that coach. Hey, coach, congratulations on your new position at so-and-so school. Are you recruiting for position in grad class at, the new school? It looks like came from Iowa going to Michigan. So like, are you looking for position in grad class at Michigan? And see if you can carry that conversation to Michigan as well. And then I would reach out to the coaches at Iowa and I would say, hey coach, I was in communication with so-and-so who's now at Michigan. Are you guys still recruiting for my position in grad class? And a lot of people complain about coaching changes, which I understand, like it can be frustrating. It's tough to stay on top of, but it can actually be a really good thing because you could get 2 for 1. You can get two, like you can keep the school that you're talking to and potentially get a new school. And this happened. I remember one in particular. Kid was talking to a D3 school. Coach loved him. Coach got hired by Yale. And then like not next day, but soon after that, coach calls him up. He's like, hey, congratulations. You're getting recruited by Yale now. Like that is awesome. That's a huge, upgrade there. So coaching changes can actually be really good as long as you handle them properly. Connor, what should be included in a highlight reel?
Highlights. Highlights.
That was not nice.
No, seriously, I'm being serious when I say this. Like we talked about it early in the call, but like value points. Okay, so like think about your position and what that takes. Okay, so like say you're a DB. Okay, it's footwork, it's breaking up passes downfield, it's coming upfield to make a tackle. If you're thinking about soccer, like playing the midfield, you have to be able to do both, right? So playing defense and offense. It's not just one-sided into one skill set unless that is your position. So I think about strikers a lot in soccer. If you're trying to build a highlight reel around that, it better be a great deal. 80% of you scoring or you assisting in scoring, right? Or you in attack, versus a random 6-minute highlight that has 75% of defense. It's like, are you a defenseman or not, right? So something that's pertaining to your position and that's something that is adding value. When I say highlights, it's the best of the best that's encapsulated in a minute and a half long form, okay?
So the thing that I'll add is before you even go get any film, right? Like you probably already have some film, but when you're thinking about putting together any type of video, whether it's a 10-second video, 30-second video, 2-minute video, 5-minute video, before you do that, write down all the primary skills that your position needs to showcase. What are those? Right? Write down, and there's usually anywhere from 4 to 8, depending on the position and how thorough you want to be. Write down all of those skills. Then when you're looking through your video, go get video for each one of those skills. And this is an intentional way of building your video. So you're not creating an ESPN top 10 highlight reel. We talk about this. You're not trying to entertain the coach. You're trying to help the coach evaluate you. And so go write down skills for your position and then get video for all of those skills. And now, whenever you make your videos, whether they're long or short, now you're actually making a video that's worth watching that a coach wants to see, because now they get to see the skills that they're evaluating. And that's a very different thing. So I would be intentional about how you create that highlight video. Don't just go through and pick your kid's best plays. That's entertainment. You're looking to help a coach evaluate you. So go write down those skills first and then go pick out videos for those skills. 8th grade, I already have 2 camp invites, couple schools, messaging my parents about stuff. Good thing for my age. You're still very early. You don't know what the messaging looks like to your parents and stuff like that. It's not bad, for sure, not bad. But you're just still so early that, like, have fun, enjoy the game. There will be plenty of time to do marketing stuff. Let's see. Would you recommend posting on X after you've had a conversation with a coach? Like, great talk with UNC, love learning about their program, or save that for visits, offers? I'd save that for visits and offers. Unless there's, like, I don't know, Connor, is there an exception to that?
Not really.
I'm trying to think, but like, here's what I would say. I'd say if you're posting on social media about a conversation that you had, not an offer, to me, it sounds like you're trying to promote the fact that you're having a conversation. And I'm going, oh, so they just don't have any offers, or, like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not the same level, right?
Just puts a weird taste too. Like, so think about if you're going on a visit or you have like a whatever lined up, right? Like you post that and you're thanking the coach and they're like, oh, I'm getting recognition from this player. What you're really doing is like letting everybody know that you were at this place. But if you take a phone call, now it's like the coach that you just got off the phone with, maybe he doesn't want you to know that, right? Like, where it's like, hey, we're just talking on the phone. Like, why is this kid posting about this? Does he even want to come here anymore? So it puts this really weird tension that doesn't need to be there. So highly recommend not doing that and just waiting on the visits and different things, or like the camp or the junior day or whatever you're going there to their campus for.
Yeah, I think that's right. But Meg, I think that's a good question. I think that's a fair
It
question.
is.
But yeah, I would hold off on doing that and save that for visits and offers and those types of things. Can someone get a D1 scholarship off one season? Absolutely. Yeah, totally.
People can get drafted off of one season. How about that? I mean,
Ain't that
no
the truth?
kidding. Like, one tournament. I mean,
Yeah.
you go down to Jupiter and you hit 6 homers, you're getting picked up in the first day. Like,
Yeah.
I kid you not. I mean, it is insane how many times that's happened. But yes, to answer your question.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you. You're welcome. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you being here.
One thing about the highlight video that I forgot to mention, the first play, that one can be elite. Okay. Like, we had a basketball player, and I cut up their video, and this dude, it was in a state playoff game in the semifinals, and this dude just dunked all over this other individual. It was electric, and the place was packed out, and everyone was screaming, throwing stuff. It was at their home gym, and like, this kid just rises up and it's on a fast break. He steals, goes down the floor, and just dunks on this dude. And every single coach mentioned that play. It's like, hey, that first play was electric. Like, and he got a lot of traction because they watched the rest of the video. But I just want to throw that in there. Like, it was super cool.
I love that. My son's at a school. He's a senior. I'd love for him to watch this later. Will the live stay up? The live will be up on YouTube. So it doesn't stay up on Instagram, but it will be on YouTube. So if you just go to D1 Scholarship on YouTube, you can see not only this live, but all the other lives that we've done. So if you're like, wait, this was helpful, one, you can go back and watch all of those. But two, we do this every day, 1 p.m. Eastern, Monday to Friday. So feel free to come back and come hang out. But I will say we primarily do this. The reason it's at middle of a day on a school day is because it's primarily for parents. But absolutely, your son should watch it. And so all that stuff's going to be on YouTube if you want to go see the recordings of those lives. Thank you, gentlemen. You're welcome, Rob. Thanks for coming, sir. Appreciate you. Appreciate you.
I think, Jack, just to kind of like, as we start to wrap up here, just mentioning that roadmap one more time is pretty helpful. Just because, like, I think a lot a lot of the questions today have been around that, right? Of like, hey, I'm in 2028. When do I start? Or what does this look like? How do I get to the XYZ point? So Just go take the quiz, guys. Like, go see what it's about. It's super cool to be able to figure out, like, how do I get from this step from initial talks or initial video sharing to actual conversation to opportunity to then taking that opportunity and turning it into money. So,
Yeah.
take the quiz. Super cool.
100% d1scholarship.com/roadmap. You can go check that out and take the 2-minute quiz. You'll get a free guide sent to your email for your specific phase. It's awesome. How do you get the emails for every D1 coach in the country? You can either use software to do it, or you can go to the athletic websites. And of course, that's going to take a while because if you're talking about every D1 coach in the country, there's going to be a lot of them. But you could go to the athletic websites. If it's not on the athletic website, you can go to the staff directory on the school's main website. That's a little workaround. But really, if you're going to go do that, what I was talking about to like the answer to like, how do you get recruited by D1 schools fast? You need to do that with software. It's going to be an absolute nightmare to do that without software, including the email portion of that. It's going to be really hard. So careful on that. Nate Barker. Yeah, he says lots of Google searching or pay a good price to someone who has the list and has down the work. Yep. Both of those are good answers. Someone was contacted a second time by a D1 school. Coach asked for his number, called him, asked him to attend a prospect camp. Why hasn't the D2-3 schools contact him after showcases? So I have a video on this, which is like D1 schools are interested in me. Why are D2 and D3 schools not contacting me? There's a couple reasons why this could be the case. One, it might just be early enough where D2 and D3 schools are just not recruiting quite yet, but D1 schools are. And if you just give it enough time, the D2 and D3 schools will come. The second thing is it could be that they don't believe they have a chance on him. And so they're just like, never mind, this kid's not going to come here. If your kid is like really that talented, that could be a thing too. But the third thing that I will mention is talent evaluation is an opinion. It's entirely possible that a Division I school looks at your kid and says, I like what I see. And a Division II school looks at your kid and goes, I don't think he's capable of playing here. And that's kind of wild. But, my story, I'm not going to share this hopefully every single live, but I think I talked about it yesterday. But Virginia Tech and Mississippi State came to watch me play. Mississippi State was the better program by far, but they're the ones who gave me a full ride. And Virginia Tech said I wasn't good enough to play at their program. And it's like, how does that make any sense? It doesn't. It doesn't make any sense. And so it could also just be that talent evaluation is an opinion and they have different opinions on that stuff. Connor, anything else there?
No, you're spot on with that. And it's a really interesting space, guys, because like there's some D2 programs that only go into the portal from D1. Like every D1 that like they just filter in and they're going to play the plug and play method for the rest of eternity until it fizzles out, right? And then you have other D2 schools that are similar to what Jack said, which is like they're just different and their timelines push back. So just keep on it. Like you really don't know. And this is why we say contact that many schools, because you may fit one program just splendidly in everything that they're looking for. And then you have a lesser program that you don't fit into for whatever reason. And you won't know that until you actually go do the work.
Yep, totally. Can you talk about agents for NIL capable football athletes and how to have a reasonable perspective for managing folks coming at your athlete who might have potential? So this is an interesting question. It probably doesn't apply to a ton of people that are in here right now, but still might be interesting for people to hear about. Just so you know, Connor and I have both played professionally for 7 years. We've both had agents. We've both been drafted. We've talked to GMs. We've been sponsored by brands, right? Like all those types of things. Okay. So I'll let him go first and just share how he would think about handling an agent and picking an agent or vetting an agent. And then I'll just kind of add on top of that.
Yeah, for sure. So agents are tricky, okay, because this is just the world that we live in. One, make sure that if you're going to vet the agent, right, make sure you understand who they've worked with. And if they give you a client list of XYZ caliber of athletes, Tell them somebody that you know, right? Or like someone that's reasonable for you guys to reach out to. Ask for contacts of what that looks like. Other thing you can do is really go off of their body of work, right? Like how well do they take care of their athletes and what have they been able to do for that person? The second thing, guys, is if it feels slimy, it probably is. Okay. Like that's a huge, huge thing when it comes to this. If it feels slimy and it feels off from the beginning of the conversation, it probably is. Okay. Trust your gut when it comes to these individuals and just anybody really. But like there's a lot of people out there that don't necessarily have the best interest. And so we just have to read the fine print, make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. And this actually applies to college coaches as well, guys. Not that they're slimy, that just that any college coach that you're going to send your child off to, that you know exactly what you're getting yourself into and not being siloed into this one agent reaching out to me on a Tuesday. And so that's the person I have to go with. Like you're much better suited just to not have one at all and to handle those conversations for your son or daughter's best interest, or its son for this case. But like for their best interest because you guys understand that as parents versus having somebody else do that that might not have the best intentions.
Yeah, the two things that come to mind for me are incentives, aligned incentives, and trust.
Yes.
So the first piece is aligned incentives. Make sure that whatever contract you sign, the incentives are aligned, that whoever it is that's representing your kid is getting compensated for whatever they're able to compensate your kid with. If your kid doesn't get compensated, the agent doesn't get compensated. So the incentives have to be aligned. Okay.
Yes.
If they're not aligned, then run the other direction because they're probably just trying to take money. The second piece is trust, and Connor already kind of talked about this. So I'm not going to beat a dead horse on this, but remember what an agent really is, which is they represent you, your best interests, nothing else. If the person that you're talking to, you think will represent someone else's interest, whoever it is, more than your kid, don't sign with them. It could be their own interests. It could be the interests of teams. It could be you have to make sure that they are going to represent your best interest and you feel that. And like Connor said, if it feels slimy from the beginning, it's going to be slimy. If it feels too good to be true, it's too good to be true. But it's really aligned incentives. And the other thing that I would recommend is take as many phone calls with agents as you possibly can. Don't take two of them and then pick from the two. Go take as many as you can. Trust me, there's a lot of people out there who want to represent for NIL. You won't have any problem filling your calendar with 20 calls. It's worth it for you to put in the effort to make 20 calls to find the people that you can trust and that are the best fit for you. So make a lot of calls, like talk to a lot of people before you actually choose. Something like an NIL deal is a big deal. You could potentially be talking about life-changing money depending on the athlete, right? It's worth it for you to put in the time to make 20 or 30 or 40 calls. It sounds like a lot. We're potentially talking about millions of dollars. Trust me, best 40 calls you've ever made. So make sure that you have somebody in your corner that really believes in your kid and the incentives are aligned. Connor, if you need to bounce, you can bounce. I'm probably just going to kick it and just keep going for at least a couple more minutes. But
no, that's good. It really about 8 minutes I got.
Okay. Well, then let's do that. I'll leave when you leave. We'll go about 8 minutes, something like that.
Cool.
What are your thoughts on a D1 preferred walk-on offer? Academically receiving full ride tuition with no housing or meal compensation.
Repeat that one more time. About
Yes,
the
they got a D1 preferred walk-on offer.
Okay. No
And
housing or
they're getting full ride academically, but no
Okay.
housing or meal compensation. And the person's just saying, what are your thoughts on that?
Fine. Like, especially if it's a school that you're willing to go to. Like, when you say preferred walk on, it means that you have a chance to be on the team and like they're giving you that. Say as you go to walk an open tryout, like, hey, you have a chance to walk on if you come here. Way different conversation, right? Because now it's like, okay, now I have to go make the team and I have to go. When you're a preferred walk on, you practice with the team, you do everything with the team. Like, you're still a part of that organization. So, depending on what he wants and what that looks like, then fine. The one thing I'll add to that is as soon as we get into like walk on versus scholarship versus not, like you're still having school paid for, which is fantastic. You just want to make sure that you ask the questions to the coach about like, hey, coach, in year 2, or how does it look in year 1, for me playing inside of your organization, right? Or in year 2, do I have a chance to get a athletic scholarship attached to this as well, right? And so just making sure you're asking and doing your due diligence to know exactly what that opportunity looks like for you, so you don't get on campus and are starstruck like, I'm not even doing anything with this program. I'm just here.
Yeah. Yeah. I really don't have much to add. I think that's all great. I'm again, it's about getting to a school that's the best fit for you. So if athletically you don't get the money that you're looking for, if it's a school that you'd love to be at and it's a great fit for, then that's great. There's
Wonderful.
really nothing wrong with that. Um, Son has a 4.5 weighted GPA, student leader. Should he be talking about that on socials also? People tell us his grades are super helpful for football recruiting. How is that athletic leverage? So to answer your first question, yeah, you should share that on socials. To answer your second question, how is that athletic leverage? Here's why it's athletic leverage. One, because you'll get more schools that you can be talking to, right? So if there's Ivy League schools, top academic D3 schools, kids that don't have good enough grades, before the coach can even see their video, automatically it's a no, right? So you just open up. You get with a 4.5, you can go anywhere, right? So that's the first reason that it's leverage, is because right from the get-go, you're not cut off from anybody. Okay. The second reason it's athletic leverage is because the coaches don't have to do as much work on their part on the back end. So your kid is easier for them to recruit than another kid whose grades are not as good. If it's your kid with a 4.5 or another kid with a 2.5, and both players are equal in talent and all those other good things, they're going to take the 4.5 kid. Why? Because they don't have to go to bat to admissions and be like, please take this kid. Admissions is like, please bring this kid in, right? So it's athletic leverage, because you're going to have an advantage over all the other athletes who don't have good grades like that. And then the final reason is, like, depending on your sport, you say football, so this might not be super applicable to you, but in other sports as well, academic money becomes a really big thing, right? And so if a coach can give you, 100% academic money and no athletic money, but still treat you like an athletic recruit, then that saves them 100% of money they can go give to somebody else. That's what happened with me. I was not a 4.5 student. I'm not as smart as your kid, but like I had good enough grades that I was on a 50% academic scholarship and 50% athletic. Now they told me that they would give me 100% athletic, but I qualified for 50% academic. So what that means is they now had 50% of money that they could go use to get somebody else. And that's really valuable. And so those are some reasons why academics might be helpful for athletic leverage. Anything else on that, Connor?
No, that's great. I did same thing. Like if you're using my own story, like 60% of my money was tied up in that academic money, and then 40% was athletic scholarship. And so it equals to 100, but they're using that other 60% that they just saved on me because I am a good student. It also helped a lot with another opportunity that I got at Auburn, where they were completely transparent. Like it was like, "Hey, I just want to know so we can match, and I think we're a better program than Georgia Tech. Like, I want to know exactly like what your number is so we can match that, if not go above it, so that you know exactly like what you're coming out of pocket with." And so once again, it was a really interesting situation that they asked us that, but same thing. Yeah, I could have lied, but I said exactly what I said. Hey, it's going to be 60% or academic, 40% athletic. And then Auburn was like, okay, this is what you're going to have to pay. They did the calculations, and then they were like, great. Now we're going to match that exactly to a T. So to answer the athletic question, it goes both ways when you get further along in the process to leveraging points and talking points with coaches.
Yep. That's cool. I didn't know that story about Auburn.
Yeah, yeah, super interesting. And that coach didn't last that long there.
Mm.
But his assistant was the one asking these questions, and that is now Link Jarrett, who is at Florida State. He is a beast.
Very
Like,
cool. Okay.
yeah, super cool. He's a great guy.
Awesome. 2 more minutes. Sorry to sound ignorant. Does that help coaches save scholarship money? How much should we talk about that, if at all? So yeah, I actually kind of answered that. Yeah, it helps him save scholarship money. How much should he talk about it? You should talk about it. They should all know about it, but that's not going to be a replacement for athletic skill. You're still going to
Sure.
need talent. Makes total sense. Thank you. You're welcome. Thanks for being here. All right, let's do one more. Okay, this is, I think, a good one that will apply to a lot of people. We'll answer this one and then we'll bounce. My junior son has been emailing a few top D1 soccer coaches. They have been emailing back and forth. Do we ever ask to get on a call, or do we wait for the coach to ask? Go ahead.
Ask. Ask. No, seriously, like, eventually, here's what happens in recruiting, right? You're the one that's pursuing the college coach early on, right? Like, where you're sending them stuff, you're engaging in conversation, you're sending follow-ups, you're pursuing them, okay? Eventually, it comes to a point where that flips, and they are the ones that are pursuing you, and they're actively recruiting you. Now, it's dual-sided where they're both benefiting. You get to go to the school and get money and do all the fun stuff, and they get to keep their job because you're a good player and you get to help their program, right? But eventually meets at a head, and somebody's got to ask the question, right? Eventually, and this is what we always guide our athletes on, is like, when you receive a couple of positive responses back, so it's like, thanks for the update, I really appreciate this, like, this is great, continue to crush it. Eventually, we can't just stay in that same space the entire time, right? Like, we can't just continue to send updates with these positive responses and be like, hey, what's going on? Like, do you like me enough to talk to me or not? And so asking for a phone call and being deliberate about what you're asking the phone call for is a massive piece for this. Okay. So, like, if you just say, hey, coach, can we hop on a call? Probably not likely that they're going to do that, because it's like, is this going to take an hour? Is this going to take 2 hours? Is this going to take 30 minutes? What does this look like? If you give them something deliberate that you want to speak about, much more willing to take that phone call.
Yep. So that's really good. The other thing is, the smaller you can make the ask, the more likely they are to say yes.
Yeah.
So you saying, can we talk for an hour? Can you walk me around campus? Those are big asks, less likely to say yes. If you say ask for a 10-minute phone call or something like that, much smaller, make a very specific reason why you want to talk to them, like what Connor said. Coaches are much more likely to say yes.
And it usually turns into about a 45-minute. Okay.
It's
if you're
never,
strategic.
that's the
Like,
thing, right?
Yeah.
You say it's a 10-minute call, but if it's going well, it'll keep going, right? It'll keep going. All right, Connor, anything to say to people before we bop?
No, thank you guys. Look, we love your engagement. Like, this is so fun for us. Honestly, the only thing that I wish is that I could see the comments on YouTube that it popped up on there. So, like, you know the questions.
Let me get you one. There you go.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Liam. Nice, man. No, I just like seeing it. It's super cool to be like interactive where everyone can see and actually like see people asking questions. So, no, guys, super cool. Really appreciate Jack, obviously everything we do together. Super fun. Love being here, and we'll continue on.
Yeah, it's a blast. Guys, thanks for being here. Remember, same time, 1 p.m. Eastern, every day, Monday through Friday. Come back, hang out. And then, of course, the roadmap, d1scholarship.com/roadmap. If you want to figure out what phase of recruiting you're in and get a guide specifically for your phase, go grab that. It's free. d1scholarship.com/roadmap. And we will see you guys again here tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern. Connor, have a wonderful day. Much love, brother.
See you guys. Love you guys. Later.